There's classic Angel for you. That's from the Live Without a Net album, which for all intents and purposes was pretty much the last Angel record for the most part. And Can You Feel It? And the opening track, the epic opening track, The Tower. And joining me now in the studio, this is very exciting because I've been asked about these guys for the longest time and had Punky Meadows on my podcast a couple months ago, got tremendous reaction, and now here he is sitting right in front of me. Good to see you, man.
What's up, Eddie? Good to see you.
Hold on. There, now your mic's on. Go ahead. One more
What's
time.
up, Eddie? Good to see you too, man.
Thank you, man. It's great to finally meet you face to face.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm a big fan of yours as well.
Well,
so, you know.
Thank you, man. And FelixRobinson from Angel is here.
Here we are.
Good to see you, man.
Nice to be here.
And we're catching up on some old times off the air here. Felix and I, Felix, for people that don't know, was in White Lion at the very early stages of the band.
At this point, right?
And he played on Fight to Survive.
Did the whole album.
Yeah.
Played all the keyboards, did all the background vocals, and arranged almost every song. But it was a band at that point that I was a part of.
Yeah, still one of my, still probably my favorite White Lion record. And I didn't have any idea that you were still living in the New York area ever since being in White Lion.
I moved to New York in 1985 and got married, started a family, and stayed here. Came here from L.A.
Okay. And Danny Farrow's here, who is kind of the instigator of all this.
Yeah, right. How you doing, Eddie?
Good to see you, man. And
great to be here.
Your role in this whole story will come out as we talk and discuss things. But I guess, Punky, I mean, for those people that have not had the chance to listen to the podcast we did, which was a pretty in-depth interview about all sorts of stuff, and you can still get it. It's free. Just go to podcastone.com or download it on iTunes. It doesn't cost you a cent. This is really, for you, the first time you're putting your toe back in the music world in a long time. What, like 30 years or so,
right?
It's
fantastic. I was doing my own thing, in North Carolina, and had some businesses, and I was in the stock market and retired and that sort of thing. And Danny got a hold of me and said, hey, you want to do a solo album? And I said, why not? Who wouldn't, man? Yeah. So, and it's just been a blast ever since.
Now, Danny, you... in addition to having your own band, you also are a huge Angel fan.
Huge Angel fan.
So,
Angel and Kiss are my all-time favorite bands.
So how does it... I'm sure there's tons of people out there listening that have an all-time favorite band that's disbanded or a musician they love that nothing's happening with. How is it that you're the guy that was able to make contact with a guy that, you were a guitar hero.
My favorite rock star right here. Yeah. Punky Meadows.
Rock,
perfect timing,
guitar hero.
perfect
how does that happen? I mean, how does that...
I'll tell you, me and Punky, we hung out a few times and we just hit it off, genuinely real. It wasn't a fake thing. And we got to be really good friends, and throughout the years.
Through what though? Because for a long time, people couldn't even find you, Punky. People didn't even know where you were. But you got on Facebook, right?
You could find me if you really looked for me. He looked for me, and he found me. So
he
knew me when I was in Virginia, and I had tanning salons as a business, and he came down, and then we met.
You went to go get a tan, and there was Punky Meadows.
I went to go get a tan, and Punky liked my sculpting a lot. I do that too, and I'm a sculptor. And we just, we just got to be friends throughout the years. And one thing I told him was throughout, now that I'm back doing music, throughout this, if I find anything I could ever do for you, buddy, I will. And, we became really close. And, Punky's one of my best friends now. And, we just started talking. Me and Keith Roth did an interview with him through the Wrat. That was
which I heard.
Right, and that was like the first time people got to hear Punky, maybe ever. Because in the '70s there's no release of audio or anything out of Punky, so it was a big thing. I mean, the servers went out and all of that. Then as knowing you, I connected you and Punky.
Sure.
You did that great podcast.
Thank you.
And it was great, man. And through that, me and Keith were talking, and we had major distribution and all that worldwide. I'm like, Keith, let's do an album with Punky if he's into it. And Keith's all on it. I talked to Punky. We had a great conversation, and here we are. Me and Punky wound up writing together, even on the phone, and we came up with 15 solid tracks. Go ahead, Punky.
Danny came down to Charlotte, North Carolina. We sat around and wrote some songs there, and we made some demos. And we just finished doing the basic tracks now. We got the drums and the bass down. I did some rhythm tracks, and we'll finish that up down in North Carolina. But it sounded awesome. It sounds amazing.
What for you, Punky? Why was this the right time? I mean, when we talked on my podcast, I mean, you were a DJ, you owned tanning salons, you said you were in the stock market. Right. I mean, you... Shockingly, or maybe not so for people that know the music industry, you also said that people that would know people that knew about Angel in the 70s would think that Angel was this super successful, millionaire loaded band with the marketing and everything that went on. But you had told me during that podcast interview that when you got out of Angel, you were broke. You had to go to work.
I mean, it's an age-old story with a lot of bands. You think that we
pull that mic a little closer to you.
We
please.
signed our rights away with everything we signed for tour support, whatever. Sign this, sign that. And then we wound up giving our publishing away, and that same old story. And the music scene had changed, and I was out in California, and I just kind of got tired of the music scene. I decided I was done with it. Went back east, and started my own business, and I was happy doing that, and I was just. I was content with that. But I always wanted to play. I mean, I play all the time. And I'm always writing songs. I mean, I have a cassette player by my couch when I play, and I play guitar all the time. I write songs, and I'm a musician, so once it's in your blood, it never leaves. You know what I mean? It's there, and you always want to do it. And then when Danny came along, he gave me the opportunity, and Keith gave me the opportunity, and I couldn't pass it up. I mean, I wanted to do it.
You had told me that for a long time you got really into country music, right?
Yeah, I love country music. That's where the hot guitar players are nowadays. I mean, there's like the guitar players from the 80s and 90s are all hot, but the guitar players now are really in country as far as I'm concerned, because for me, guitar playing is not just about shredding, but it's about chords and a lot of different things. And cats like Brad Paisley, those guys make me laugh. And yeah, I love country music. I think country music is what rock used to be almost. When I watch the Country Music Awards, it's like the dudes all wearing tight jeans, the girls got all big hair, and they're playing and they're playing heavy stuff, man, and it's cool, and I dig it, man.
Well, and now you have that trend where you got a lot of rock artists, Steven Tyler,
Exactly.
Bret Michaels, and these guys trying to cross over into that, because I think they probably think too they have a better chance of maybe getting some airplay for their new music, because unfortunately, rock music is so unbelievably hard to break on radio anymore. Nobody gives it a chance.
Well, I think pop music today is ruled by the females and on the charts. The Gagas and Taylor Swift and those people, and I can understand why, because they're the ones that are pushing the envelope. Whereas in the 80s and the 70s, the guys are pushing the envelope, but the girls are doing that now. So I can dig that. I mean,
so you all the time that you were inactive publicly to people, you were still very active playing. Of course. You still never put the guitar down.
You never stop playing. It's an old friend. I mean, I pick up talk my guitar every single night.
You got to hear him now, Ed. I mean.
Do you think you're a better guitar player now than you were in Angel?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I woodshed, and I've learned a lot more things, because I wasn't just playing one genre of music. I mean, I never did anyway. I was always playing different bands and with different types of music. But yeah, of course.
Were you aware of the, what's the word I'm looking for? The mystique about you and the fact that people wondered whatever happened to you, and that you had made this mark, and then people just felt you kind of drifted away. And of course, there's every rumor out there and all that, but this elusiveness about you that people who knew you and loved you had no idea, like they couldn't comprehend. How you could have been so off the radar and owned a tanning salon or whatever, even though it was a smart business venture.
Well, that was fun. I mean, I had a good time doing all that. You know what I mean? A lot of beautiful girls come in those tanning salons, I got to tell you.
Yeah, I bet.
And I had a good time doing that. But I never stopped playing, like I said, and I never was really aware of all that until Facebook. Until I got into Facebook and I saw all the chatter that was going on about me and that kind of thing, and. So that's kind of piqued my interest about what was really going on. I didn't realize the impact of the influences, I guess, that I had on a lot of people.
So did that help you when you saw that and acknowledged it? Did that help you to say, okay, maybe now this is a time where I should start to come out a little bit and be Punky Meadows again?
It did. It made me. It got in my blood again. All of a sudden, I said, "Man, I should be out there playing again." I want to play. And so that kind of piqued my interest, and I thought, I would love to.
He had to ripen on the vine.
Yeah, exactly.
He got really ripe, though. I mean, first of all, you still look great.
Thanks.
I mean, it's crazy. But the other thing is, I mean, yeah, you ripened for what, 30 years? I mean, you really didn't come out publicly at all, did you?
No.
For decades.
No, I was just doing my own thing, and happy and content with that. And I was going to country concerts.
Punky Meadows goes country. Who
Ben
knew?
Skill and all those cats, man. Those are great. Ever hear Marty Stewart play? You know who he is?
No.
Oh my God.
No.
Great players.
I'll check it out though.
Yeah.
Felix, how do you come into this equation? Get up on the mic there and tell everybody, how you were you always in touch with Punky even during the years he was out of music? And what did you do all these years?
Right. So Punky and I always stayed in touch, and I'm in the audiovisual business, so I have clients all over the country.
Like home theater or
no, professional, commercial, large stuff, big technology construction.
Oh, okay.
Video conferencing.
Okay.
theaters. We did Yankee Stadium, and
Oh, wow.
we did Madison Square Garden a few years ago.
Oh, so the big screens and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Wow.
all that stuff. But my job would take me different places. So I've seen Frankie lately in the last few years and dropped in with him. Punky and I always stayed in touch. I mean, we'd talk on the phone every few months, every couple of years.
He came down to my tanning salon.
Yeah,
Got a 10.
and I'd be
Got a
down in
tan.
D.C. for business, and I'd drive over and we'd have dinner and but we'd always talk about whether we wanted to start playing again, and we always agreed we wanted to, but you have to have things lined up in the way that make it possible and not a problem to do it. And Danny really kind of brought those elements together. You needed somebody who really cared instead of somebody who just wanted to do it so that they could exploit us. I think
exactly.
we developed an aversion. I know Punky did, and I know I did, and I think the other guys did as well. An aversion to people who wanted to exploit what Angel had been in terms of the commercial potential, but didn't care enough about the people, maybe the music for sure. It was about what can I do to make money from getting you guys back together.
So maybe just throw the big show together again, and who cares about everything else, and try to make money off of
There'd
that?
been more than one time, and someone approached us either individually, collectively, or one to the other, definitely trying to work one guy on to the next guy and say, look, I can get you some festival dates, and we can definitely have some fun. Oh, we'll make some money too, but I want you to sign right here. And we just wouldn't do that.
Frank and Barry came down and corralled me to do some studio stuff with them when I was in Virginia, and I did a couple tracks, but then they wanted me.
That was the record that they released.
Right.
I did that too.
It was in the beginning, I think it was called.
In the beginning,
Yes,
Yeah,
that was it.
and they
it
wanted
was a
me.
hodgepodge of different mixes of different places. It was not like it was a band.
Right.
And they wanted me to sign this paper giving up all rights to everything, my music and stuff. And I said, I'm not going to sign that. It wasn't Barry and Frank, but it was a management company at the time. And I said, I'm not going to sign that. I don't have to do that anymore. I'm not desperate to do that. And so that was it. And it just kind of reaffirmed what I thought about the music business again. I said, I'm done with that. You know what I mean? And now with Danny and Keith, and these are people I love and I trust. And so I know it's a good team, and it's not just some shark somewhere trying to take it, like he said, trying to exploit us. So these guys, I have faith and trust in, and they're my friends as well. So that makes sense now.
Yeah, absolutely. Direction-wise, I know that there's nothing. It's still too early to play anything because you're literally here because you're working on music. But direction-wise, for fans, I mean, they hear Felix Robinson, they hear Punky Meadows. They're going to expect things, I would think, in line of like the two songs they just played that open Live Without a Net, that big, epic, grand-sounding music that Angel fans love so much. Is that what you're going for, or is it going to be different or modern, or what's the mix?
It's diversified. There's a lot of power pop tunes on this thing, a lot of heavy stuff too. I mean, a lot of hard rock. I mean, it's really a mix, which is great because that's kind of what Angel was anyway. We started out as a progressive band, heavy metal, like like Led Zeppelin meets Yes, and from there we get simple, we became more of a power pop band. So that's what was cool about Angel, that we could actually do all those different types of music, and that's what I'm really proud of that fact. A lot of bands stick with one sound all the way through their careers, but Angel could change like that, and so this album is like that. And Danny has written a lot. We've written a lot of good songs together, and he's a good songwriter. Danny is too.
Well, thank you, man. It's definitely a rock album.
Yeah.
So it's a band. Obviously, Danny's in the band.
Right,
You're in the band. Felix is in the band.
Too, yeah.
So do you have a complete band? Are there other members, or you're still figuring that out? Are you going to bring in another? I imagine you got to get a drummer, right?
We have Bobby Pancella, who also plays with Monster Magnet.
Sure.
Right now, he's in the band too. So
okay. So you're going to have a keyboard player, or
we're going to get a keyboard player, and Greg is going to play on one of the tracks. He promised he would. I played on one of Frank's tracks.
Well, here's what I was going to say. I just had dinner with Frank 4 nights ago because I was in
saw the
Vegas.
pictures.
Yeah, we had a great picture of all of us, me, him, Paul Crooks, my buddy Zach. We're all Italian restaurant having dinner, and I hang with Frank every time I go to Vegas. I love going to Vegas, and Frank is always around, and it's always great to see him. And I'm actually just found out I'm going back to Vegas in a little less than 3 weeks because they're having a release party for his record,
Cool.
which I'm going to kind of host this party, and the label's having me go out to do it. So I know he's got his record done and about to come out, and he hasn't put out anything in 30 years.
Yeah.
And he told me you have you play on some of it. Now you've got your thing with Felix in it.
That's right.
It's like shuffle the deck a different way and come up with the right hand, right?
And the Farrow won the Triple Crown, so there must be something
the
happening.
Farrow, man, I won.
But the Angel fan in me starts to say, well, wait a minute. You got Punky wanting to make music. You got Felix making music. You got Frank with a record about to come out that Punky's on. It's like, I'm sure Barry's around somewhere. There's like, what's,
It could happen. We're all getting activated again. It's like you were dormant, and now we're just, coming to life, and we're We're doing what we feel is possible to do just right now.
It must be in the heavens. What can I say?
The next thing
Angel?
could be something like that.
Now, the only guy we didn't talk about in that equation, of course, looms large, and that's Greg Giuffria, who, as we talked about many times, Greg has built a huge career for himself in the casino industry and all that. Mm-hmm. And I haven't, Greg got in touch with me a year or two ago, and he said something effective like he had heard that VH1 wanted to spearhead an Angel reunion or something, and was it true? And unfortunately, it just wasn't true. And he's like, okay, I'm back to the casino world or whatever. But I just
he wanted it easy, right?
Yeah, I don't know where he's at in all this stuff, because he seems like he is so successful in business that he probably, well, on one side of it, he could probably bankroll it if he wanted to, but then on the other side of it, I don't know if he wants to get back into that world at all.
It's not even that complicated in a way, and it's not always just money that makes it happen. I also, did okay, so I was willing to fund some of that. But it's timing. Timing has to line up for everybody at the right time, and Greg's the same as the rest.
Speaking of Greg, I talked to Greg on the phone a couple of months ago. We stayed in touch. He wants to play. He said he would love to play on a track on this album too. I heard that Greg just didn't want anything to do with the music business again. But I can tell by talking to him he wants to play again, because he has a little home studio and he tools around in that. So he wants to play again. So I'd like to get him to play on a track. He said he would, so I'm hoping I'd like him to write something like The Fortune. If he could write a thing like that, would be really, really cool.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's the only guy. Well, and what does Barry do now? Is Barry playing
not sure
still?
What Barry
lives in Orange County, California, near Los Angeles. And I haven't spoken to him in a while, but last I heard he's still playing and giving lessons and ready to go.
Right. Oh, he would jump at it, you think?
Barry's a great drummer.
And he'd want to do it.
I can't speak for Barry.
Right. But the fact that he's playing and he's active, and
why don't you call him up?
We could. I don't have his number, but if you want, I will.
Did he play on Frank's album? Do you know?
I don't know.
He did.
We heard that he did.
Played one track.
Oh, he did. I'm not sure.
I haven't seen him for several years.
Oh, okay.
Long time.
I saw my name on the liner notes on the CD, but I didn't see Barry's. So I thought Greg was going to play on it too, but I don't think he played on that either. So
Right. Sure. So you guys, the idea here though is that you guys all pretty much still get along and you still kind of do your thing, and there's no animosity, there's no issues with anybody.
Oh, I love Frank. I wish him all the luck in the world. I mean, I hope he's super successful. I love all those guys. They're my brothers.
He's going to sing on the album.
Yeah, he's going to sing on my album too. He's going to sing a track. But I love all those guys. They're my brothers. You know what I mean?
We still have a publishing company. We still pay our taxes.
What happened with us is once Casablanca kind of fell apart, we were still under contract and we couldn't really do anything. So we kind of splintered off and formed, because we were still under contract with Casablanca. So we kind of splintered off and formed different groups because of that. And then we just that was the end of that at Angel. But it's because we were still under contract. We couldn't record. We couldn't do any demos anywhere or anything like that. So we just kind of splintered off and did different things, different projects.
So there was when after Live Without a Net came out, how much life was left in Angel? How long did it last before it fully fell apart after the live record? I mean, was there a chance that there would be another studio record? Did you ever get to a point where you started writing? And
once Neil Bogart was gone, he was the head of Casablanca, and he was really he was the heart of Casablanca. Once he was gone, the company kind of fell apart. It was run by a bunch of college kids, and no promotion wasn't happening, nothing was going on. And once that happened, that was pretty much the end of Angel, I think, because, like I said, we couldn't do anything. Our hands were tied contractually, so we couldn't do anything. And I don't know. Greg and I stayed together and did like a revamped Angel kind of thing and called it something else with Fergie Ferguson and Ricky Phillips. We had a band called Legend. And I actually did the demos for Giuffria, but we were called Legend then with David Isley. Mm-hmm. And that didn't go anywhere. So that's when I split and went back to the East Coast. And then Greg finally got a deal because of that demo. That later on, but by that time I was gone. And
Michael Bolton wanted you.
Oh yeah, that's Michael. That was when before Michael became
crooner.
Crooner, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was in Blackjack.
He
was in Blackjack originally with Bruce Kulick. His first couple records were hard rock records.
They were.
So I played him on my radio show. The first record, Fool's Game, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
he was a hard rocker originally.
David Krebs wanted me to. David Krebs, he wanted me to join to play with Michael. He said I'd give Michael another dimension or something like that, and so that was a possibility at the time. But
yeah, that's the other thing too that's interesting about you, Punky, is that being such a star of that era, that there weren't offers to join all kinds of bands, or were there, and you just didn't take them?
I got offered to take Joe Perry's place in Aerosmith too, but at the time I was still with Greg, and we were doing an Angel thing, and David asked me if I would take that spot.
The gig Jimmy Crespo ended up taking.
And I turned that down because I was with Greg. We were still doing that deal, and of course, the Kiss story. I don't have to say that again. Everybody knows that story. But
well, it is a great story, though.
For
people that don't know it, it's still maybe worth telling.
Well, I got offered that spot. I was in LA. I was with Greg. We were doing a demo and they were auditioning guitar players, and they had that paper out there where they had a cattle call going on. So Barry Levine was a photographer, and was in the studio with Gene and Paul, and Barry Levine said, "What about Punky?" And Gene said, "That's a great idea." So Barry calls me from the phone and says, "Hey, Punky, Gene and Paul would like you to come down and audition." And I said, "Okay, well, I'm doing a thing with Greg. That sounds cool." He said, "Well, listen, just give it a shot." So Gene calls me and Gene says, "Hey, come on down and audition. Just learn one side of the live album. I don't care what side, just learn one side and come on down." I said, "Okay." So I went down there and I walk in the studio and they're
Wait! What side did you learn? I'm just curious.
I remember now. I just grabbed a side, stuck it on, and tuned my guitar.
Probably one, right?
I'm just curious if it was like the side with 100,000 years, because then you could have walked off for 10 minutes during the drum solo.
It was the one with hotter than hell, like whatever. I don't know.
Okay, probably side one.
Anyway, so I tuned my guitar. I have a step down because I tuned half a step down. And so I learned all the songs, and then I went down into the SIR studios where they were rehearsing at, and I walked in. They were playing "Communication Breakdown" by Led Zeppelin, so that was kind of cool. So I plugged in and played, and they went. Eric Carp was in the band there, and we played, and it sounded really great. They were really happy. We kicked ass and all that, knocked the dick in the dirt, so to speak. And Gene said, "Let's sit down and talk business." So I said, "Okay." So we sat down. He said, "Listen, man, you got the gig. What do you want to? Let's do it." And I said, "Well, look, Gene, I'm with Greg right now. We just sent some demos out. We're shopping a deal." And as soon as I said that, he looked at me like, "You know who you're talking to?" His jaw just dropped down. And he looked at Paul and he said, "Come on, Paul, let's go." And they just stormed out of there.
So typical of the story for those guys.
So I turned around and looked at Eric and said, "Wow, what's going on?" He says, "I don't know." So we sat down and talked for about a half an hour. He's a really nice guy.
Eric Carr was
great
the best.
great guy. We talked.
Such a nice guy.
The best.
So I go back home and Barry Levine calls me on the phone. He goes, "Punky, what'd you do?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Gene and Paul came back to the studio with their jaws to the ground and said, 'No one's ever turned down Kiss.'" And I said, "Well, I didn't really turn them down. I just said, 'Well, here's what I'm doing,' and they stormed out. And I guess I insulted them. He said they were going to offer you $200,000 a year plus points. At the time, I was broke.
Yeah, and at that time, that's a lot of money.
That was a lot of money.
And for them to give you points is amazing.
Yeah. So I said, "Well, I don't know what to do." So I kicked myself in the ass after that. But that's life. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Here's the part of that story, and I mentioned this to you when we talked on the podcast. The lineage I'm trying to figure out, because at that point, I'm assuming you're talking about the gig that Vinnie Vincent originally ended up taking.
Right. That's
okay.
Right.
So they were still wearing makeup.
They were still wearing makeup.
So the question I still can't quite figure out is, you would have had to wear makeup, and if you wore makeup, would you have still been punk? Because there was still the anonymity thing. There was still no, like when Eric Carr came in, nobody knew who he was. He had no history before that. So were they going to put makeup on you and say the guy from Angel, or change your name and pretend you were never an Angel?
We were going to put makeup. We didn't discuss that. I mean, that they were going to do that. I guess I would have been the straw man or something. I'm not sure what I would have been, but I think didn't they actually take their makeup off after that? Because wasn't Vinnie Vincent in the album? I mean, in the band when they did take the makeup off?
Well, they did a tour with him.
Okay.
The Creatures of the Night album, which is the period you're talking about, they put Ace's picture on the cover. Vinnie did the tour. And then the next record, they took the makeup off, and that's the only record that Vinny's actually pictured on as playing, even though he actually played on Creatures as well. Creatures of the Night, there's two versions of that record. There's one that pictures Ace on it when they have makeup. They did a reissue of it when they took the makeup off with Bruce Kulick on it. Neither guy ever played on the record, but there's no version of it with Vinny who actually did play on the record. So, but the other thing about, and I've talked to you about this, and I talk to people all the time about it with Angel, and it's amazing to me. There are people who, like Danny, like Keith, like myself, Angel. My friends here, Eric and Ron in the studio, I got to tell you this. They're two of my best friends, right? These guys, I've been doing radio 30 plus years. I can count on one hand how many times they've asked me to drive from New Jersey and come in the studio to watch me interview somebody. And you were the guy they texted me and said he canceled the date for it.
No, sure.
That's cool. So that's fantastic.
So
that's wonderful. Thank you.
To some people, Angel means that, and I've talked to you about this before. And then other people, they have no knowledge of who the band was. There's no who they never heard of you, and there's that huge gap there. There's no in-between ground, it seems. And Felix, I mean, I've talked to Punky about this, but you can chime in as well. I mean, you came into the band a little bit later in the history.
I did.
But why do you think that is? I mean, you must find it even yourself in your line of work now. Yeah, I was in this band Angel, and probably some people freak out, and some people, I never heard of you.
Absolutely. It's night and day. Some people will say, Angel, you're Felix Robinson. Angel.
Yeah.
And they stand there looking at me like I was a ghost. But yeah, a lot of people, you'll mention the band, and if they ask, and sometimes I will say, well, I was a musician for 20 years, and I made some records. Well, really, who'd you play with? I always had, I'll say Angel because I played a lot of bands and made quite a few records, but I'm going to say Angel because it was the most popular group I was in at the time. And you're right. Some people will just say Angel. Oh yeah. They look at you like they never heard of it, but that's okay. Angel was there was a mystique about the band, and you remember we sold millions of records, but it was over the lifespan of 7 releases, 7 albums, and
there was never that one.
There was never
massive
one giant hit
single song that just didn't happen.
I think because of MTV wasn't around when we were around, and I think we had to tour and tour to be seen. And when we just split up before MTV came on. I think if we had done the MTV thing, it would have been a different story because we were such a visual band, and I think that would have been different then. Back in those days, unless you had a hit record, you had to just tour and tour and tour every little town everywhere in the Midwest, all over the place. That's what you did, and if MTV had been there, we could have been on and we would have been seen 24 hours a day, and I think it would have been a different story. Then it was just bad timing, I guess.
See, for me, it's hard to comprehend how I can understand people never having heard the music or don't know the story of the band, but to not have heard of you, which is I find a lot, is surprising to me only because if I'm 50, so if you grew up in that era of music, the specter, the aura of Angel, even if you never heard the music, the ads, the billboards, the commercials, the marketing was so big that it had to at least, if you picked up a rock magazine, you had to at least know who Punky Meadows was. You had to at least know what Angel was. But it just seemed there was, maybe it's territorial, different parts of the country. It just seemed that there's areas where there's like zero acknowledgement, and then you have these other areas like, oh my God, I saw Angel at the Palladium, and this. I think my friend Eric sent me a picture. I was like, man, I wish I had a time machine. It was, I think, Angel, Piper, and the Gods or something. And I loved Piper. I mean, I think
that was Judas
Priest.
Billy Squire's first band,
Billy
which was
Squier,
technically the first band I ever saw because I saw him open for Kiss.
Right.
But to this day, I love those 2 Piper records. I'm like, oh my God, if I could have an Angel Piper double bill now, it'd be like the greatest thing.
Yeah.
But it might only be me, Keith, and Danny there in the audience. I don't know.
We need a wayback machine for sure.
Glad you have a microphone over there and a show.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But the question is, like, for you, Punky, you just think that was a case of if you would have held out another year or two, that the MTV thing would have kicked in and it maybe would have gone over the.
I think so. I think that would have been a different story. But I mean, there were so many bands that MTV just broke overnight. I mean, the Def Leppard, all these bands, Quiet Riot,
Motley Crue.
Because you see these bands 24 hours a day, and they're seen by everybody. And
well, there were a lot of bands that came on MTV that were sort of popular for a few weeks, but they never were able to follow it up. And all of our best recordings were before that period of time, so we would have had to continue cranking out albums after we got the video on TV. But the timing was just not working for us.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that the image, as strong as it was for Angel, ever worked against you? Do you think that maybe that played a role?
It did with Kiss because, one of the things that should have happened, our management and Bill Aucoin, agreed that we would never perform with them. And I think that was a great, big mistake. We should have done tours with Kiss.
That would have been awesome.
Punky had said on my podcast, I think, that they wouldn't allow it. They would never allow you.
That's
to play
how we got our record deal. We were in our management's office, and
it's like Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah, Neil was our David Joseph, our manager, was talking about Casablanca, and he said, "Why don't we give Neil Bogart a call and see what he says?" So he calls Neil Bogart up at Casablanca and says, "Hey, I got this band Angel. I'd like you to come and see them. They're really hot." And so he said, and he also said that Gene Simmons had seen Angel at a nightclub and thought they were great. So Neil said, "I'll tell you what, let me call Gene, and they're playing Anaheim this week. I'll let Angel open up for them, and so that way I can see the band." So they hang up. Neil calls back 5 minutes later. He says, "I'll tell you what, I'll sign the band sight unseen." Gene said, "Under no way will Angel ever open up for Kiss." So that's what sparked Neil's interest right away. So
you feel he was threatened by you guys?
Yeah, that's what he said. They even let him open up for us. So
at the same time, he helped you too.
He helps. He helps at the same time. So I mean,
there was a marketing difference. That was also there were similarities for marketing purposes. So we used the same photographer. A lot of the merchandising looked similar, although it was two different bands, and so I think they were really trying to keep the two identities separate, and it was a mistake.
But to answer your question, I think that you get in that trap where you think I got to get out of these costumes because I feel like I'm pigeonholed or whatever. And the Kiss did the same thing. That's why I took the makeup off. But once we got out of that costume, we did our marathon tour without the costume. People wished we had been back in white. And as soon as Kiss put their makeup back on, boom, they exploded again. So I think really, you get too close to it, and in reality, I now when I look back at the pictures of us in the white costumes, and I look at the ones without costumes, I said, the white works, man. That's really where it's at.
Right.
It's magical that way, and that's really what it was all about. That's what Angel was about. So I think that was a mistake to take the costumes off. It was a mistake for Kiss to take their makeup off too, obviously, because when they took the makeup off, they didn't do it nearly as well. As soon as they did that Unplugged show, and they came back out. Ace and Peter came out and played, and then they put the makeup back on. They were selling arenas out everywhere again.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the nature of the beast in this business. You always want to you feel like you want to progress as a musician and maybe as your image or whatever, and you want to do things different. And a lot of times you wind up screwing that up because you don't know what's best for you a lot of times.
And tying in with the image thing was obviously, for people that don't know, Angel was known for a massive stage show. But you were a lot of times you were in situations where you were an opening act. You never were really a full-fledged arena headline, but you were bringing and carrying and paying for a show that was that.
We did
so
headline.
That had to be tough, too.
We would headline.
You headlined, but you never did like 20,000-seat headlines in America, did you?
Oh, yeah.
You
Long
did?
Beach Arena, absolutely.
Really?
Capitol Center in D.C. I could name a
Because
bunch
I
of
never
them just
saw
from
the
memory.
band live. So
we
I
were
didn't
huge
know.
in the Midwest. That was really our stomping grounds in the Midwest, is where we headlined a lot in the Midwest.
Right, being from here, like my friends here, they're a little bit older than me, so they'd see you at like a place called the Community Theater in Morristown.
We did that stuff too, yeah.
They still talk about, which is a couple thousand seats. That's what I always envisioned, because being from here, that was what the band's draw was as a headline.
At that time, you had to break the record, as they used to say. So our album came out. The tour was coordinated with the release of the album. So the airplay was supporting the purpose of going out and playing the shows. So everything worked together in lockstep, supposedly. But that meant that we sometimes needed to show up for shows where we weren't the headliner. Yet our show, as you said, was really geared around an extravagant presentation of a band. And whenever we would actually open for other bands, and I remember when we played here at Madison Square Garden, we opened for Styx, and half the audience left, after we were done with our set.
Which is good for you, but once word gets out about that, then you're the band nobody wants opening.
That happened to us many times. We never. I told you the story about Aerosmith. We played Aerosmith. We opened some dates for them, and the first night we had 5 spotlights on, Super Troopers on each one of us. It was great. Next night was 4 Super Troopers. The next night 3, 2, then 1. So I went back to that. I said, David, how come they're not giving us any lights? And David Krebs said, listen, when you're playing with a headliner, you play by the headliner's rules, and they don't like the way you're blowing them off the stage like that. I'm sorry, Punky, that's just the way it is. And so we were forced to headline prematurely a lot of times because we never could get on a tour very long. We would get thrown off.
Right.
I mean, as soon as we came on, the kids would just rush, because we weren't affecting ourselves just with our costumes. I mean, kids would just rush the stage. It was crazy. And so we were forced to headline prematurely when we really weren't ready to, and that was just the way it went.
Hey, we don't have a mic here for him, but my Sirius XM brother and my old friend Keith Roth is over here, who gives me such wonderful intros that I lead into on this show every Monday. I feel like I should pay him for the nice things he says about me. But get over here, man, because you're part of this story too. Tell me how you're engaged in all this.
Well, first of all,
get on the mic so everybody can hear you.
I just want to say that you are the same guy on and off the air. I mean, we run into each other.
We both are. When people see Keith and I coming, everybody else walks away because they know the music geek conversation is going to get deep.
At funerals, at weddings, it doesn't matter. But no, and Eddie's always been that guy and it's probably been about 30 years at this point.
Yeah, since I've known you?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's why I love giving you the plugs, because you're the real deal.
Well, thank you, man.
But
Tell them about what
Danny
you're doing.
Aniello, big Angel fan, as we know. And, we're all part of the same label, Main Man Records, which has done a bunch of releases, and now it's taken a bunch of steps forward. So he always said to me, he's like, I'd love to make a record with Punky Meadows. And I was like, well, why don't you ask him, right?
Yeah.
And next thing he's like, I just asked Punky, and he said he's into it, and it was that simple. And these guys got together. They wrote some brilliant songs. I mean, they're kind of maybe even underplaying it because I've heard most of them, and it's just exactly what Angel fans are going to expect. It's not no one's going to be let down when they hear this record, and the playing is sensational, and the songs, the melodies, everything's right there. So if this was the follow-up, well, it's not really Angel, but it's Punky and Felix. They're going to be blown away. I'm blown away by it.
And Danny, too.
Danny.
This is why I love these guys. I mean, these guys are really good guys, and there's not a lot of drama going on. These are just great guys, and I trust them, and I think it's going to be a blast. It's a lot of fun.
And Punky's playing, let me tell you, it's better than ever. I mean, he's going to be doing stuff on this album that Angel fans have never heard him do. I don't want to build it up too much, but I don't think I can, because when I went down to North Carolina, I mean, I got videos of this guy, and we're just jamming, and I said, Punky, let's try this, and all of a sudden he's doing this stuff that, I mean, I'm more of a shredder, and the stuff he could do, I could never learn. It's his feel is just.
Let's be honest. The area that we come from has got like some of the greatest guitar players from our little neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And,
just
Mama
his
Goshen
feel,
Kennedys,
man.
The Zach Wilds, the John JDs, all those guys, Danny. And even Bob Pantello plays with Monster Magnet. He was like, man, this guy is incredible. Like as a player, all across the board. I mean, no, his playing is definitely.
You guys are too kind.
That's all the country he's been listening to, man. It's all the country.
You can stick some really cool country licks and rock songs, and it sounds really cool. I mean,
How far along is this whole thing as far as where are you at in the recording? Like, is there a target release date? What's the plan? How much more do you have to do? Is it written? Is it just demoed? Where are you at?
No, it's 15 songs. All the drums are complete.
Bass.
All of Felix's bass tracks are complete. Some of Punky's rhythms are down, and then me and Punky are going to lay down. I'm going to do some rhythm tracks, and Punky's going to do all his leads in North Carolina, and I'm going to be down there with him. And then we have we put out actually a call for a lead vocalist too. We want to try out some singers. We have. Out of like 100 people who, maybe more, we have 4 that we're really interested in, and we're going to have them demo some stuff for us. And, also, if there's any more out there that would like to maybe send in something, you could send it to punkysoloproject@gmail.com. So,
But you should mention the guest list of people that, or there's some iconic singers that might be possibly singing.
Yeah, do you want to do Punky? Do you want one singer on the whole record, or do you want guest vocalists, like what Slash did at one point, or how do you want to do it? Do you want just one guy, or do you want guests and then have one guy for the tour?
We'd like to have some guests on there. We've had some name. I don't want to name drop right now because that's not the proper thing to do. But we've had we want to have some guest singers on there and guys that are bigwigs up there. But we do want to have a singer that's going to be identifiable with this band as well. So we don't want to have just a bunch of singers on and then have to go out and try to duplicate that live. We do want to find a singer that's the heart of the band and that's that can be identifiable with this.
Right. Well, you do like Jakey Lee's record. He had one guy that sang on 5 songs that he took on the road, and then 5 guest spots. The problem with that is the one guy who sang, he's gone through 6 singers since the record. But then again, it doesn't seem to be like that big of a deal because he used 6 different singers on the record anyway. So it's just Jake's got another singer this week or whatever. But
when you hear some of these songs, like you calls for certain guys that
material wise, right, direction wise.
So and so sing this or so and so sing that. So
do you think you'll get it out this year? Or are we looking at 2016?
I mean, what do you think? January, maybe?
Probably more like 2016.
Possibly this year, right, Keith?
I think so, yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
And you want to go out and play live, I'm assuming? You want to put a live band together? You want to be on the road?
Yeah,
you're okay with that?
You're not. Man, I can't wait to get
you want to
play
go
again.
out?
Yeah,
okay.
I can't wait.
All right, good. Well, listen, there's I'm sure people that want to have some questions for you, maybe even in this very room.
Don't be shy.
What's up,
You're not taking callers?
This guy lives about 2 hours away from here. He drove here just to look at you, so he should probably ask you a question at some point. So think about your question. And we'll take questions, of course, from the audience as well. 866-315-2663. This is live, a live show for another 28 minutes. I don't even know. Maybe Keith comes on again after me. I'm not even sure what comes on after me, but I know Keith's always on before me. So
one down on the dial.
Yeah, one down. Okay, one down. So anyway, we'll take some calls for Felix Robinson, Punky Meadows. You know them, of course, from the legendary 70s band Angel. And, now 2/5 of the band is active in this group. And another fifth is putting out a record. Frank is doing his thing with you part of one of the songs. And, now we just got to get to. I'm feeling something happening here. I think it's great that you guys are doing your things, but maybe this gets the juices flowing.
You never
and then
know.
you get, you
never Angel.
Get, you get at least just a show. See, I never saw the band live. I saw the band live, but not the band. I saw later when Frank was doing his thing, and Steve Blaze was in, and all. And all due respect to that, it just wasn't Angel. That's not Angel. So I'd love to see the show. But I know there's challenges with that because the show is expensive and to be done right. And the crazy thing is, I've talked to you about this, and I talk to Frank about it all the time, that in that age of you had so much stuff that's turned up on YouTube from that era, whether it's TV shows or whatever, there is no proper shot document of the classic live Angel show. Wait a minute, this is crazy. And I just talked about this at dinner with Frank the other day. I don't know if any of you guys saw this, but for about a week on YouTube, there was 3 minutes of pro shot footage of the open of the show.
Really?
With George talking.
I haven't seen that.
I told you to look at it.
And it got pulled down.
Was it like 8mm?
It looked like it was in HD. It was bumped up.
Really?
It was Did you see it, Keith?
I think I saw that once.
I thought I was dreaming.
I think you saw it.
Who has it? Does anybody
There was
know
no
that?
sound, though. It was sound.
No, it was sound.
Yeah, there was.
It was full on. And
You
I
never know what's going to turn up.
I couldn't believe it because you had said to me in the podcast, Punky, you'd said that if there is anything, it would be from that aborted Angel movie.
Right.
And if you said in that, somebody could be sitting on footage they don't even know about. So this guy, it was weird because whoever has it is being very cryptic and anonymous about it because they just put some sort of weird scroll on the bottom.
Wow.
And he's done it with other bands too.
Yeah.
And then shows up for like a week and then it disappears.
I wonder who that
Almost
is.
I think
like
he
a
wants
tease.
to license it.
License it, or he's waiting for somebody to make him an offer, but nobody knows how to get to the guy.
Wow.
I talked to a guy who does have some footage, but he wanted to license it. So we may make some kind of documentary we were talking about, and I don't know, it depends how much it costs.
Some things are better left as an
that's
as a
true
memory.
also.
Well, that film is somewhere. We did a lot of filming for the Angel at Midnight concert. Or, I don't know, the movie that Casablanca did, and it's somewhere in a can somewhere. I mean, it could be destroyed, but it's somewhere. And it's a lot of footage. It's us playing with Sammy Hagar opened up for us, and the Babies opened up for us, and we did the big show at the end, and it's filmed the whole show.
It's somewhere if it wasn't destroyed.
Yeah, that's the thing. You never know with that kind of stuff, tapes and stuff.
But this thing looked like it was.
Well, I'm wondering maybe if that's part of that. It could be part of that.
I don't think
maybe
it was.
I think that was
This
the
guy,
film.
no, I think he filmed a bunch of concerts, and he has actually a trailer where he shows like AC/DC and Angel, and he isn't the guy who filmed that, but he has his own footage from the concert, and it was really clear. One of them ended with Punky ending a solo, and then, like you said, the big head comes up.
Yeah,
and
I had never ever seen that and just heard about it and seen photos of it, and I was like, this can't be happening. This is actually real.
That's cool.
And then it went away, so I don't know what the backstory is. It's a very sort of mysterious thing going on online right now, but I don't know if he's afraid of who owns it and somebody coming after him, or he's waiting for somebody to make him an offer. I don't know, but he's done it with more than just Angel. And he's the guy definitely listens to this show because I know he tweets it at me. Like when I'll say something like that, he'll tag me on it and it'll just say, check this out. Right. But then when you try to follow the trail to where it comes from, it breaks off. He's definitely hiding behind something too. Wow, it's really weird, but
I know.
It
he
exists.
Don't show his face.
There's something there.
Some kind of serial stalker or something.
No, it's like somebody sitting on like the holy grail of footage for bands you wish you could see, and it's like, well, look what I have, but I'm not going to show it to you.
If you're out there and you're listening, come forth and we'll buy you a steak dinner, or at least give you $1.
And if you have the Piper Angel show from the Palladium, I'll give you 2 steaks for that because I've never seen Piper footage either.
We
I
recently
saw
found
Piper with
the
Kiss.
costumes from our last Sinful tour.
Yeah.
You did what?
I have the costumes, all of our white stuff.
You do?
Yeah.
Like in your house, in the basement, or where is it?
Yeah,
He
it's
has
at
it
home.
That you just kept, or you found them?
Found them about 2 years ago. When we came off tour, they had gone to the cleaners, came back in a suitcase that we used to use to transport when we were on tour. went into my storage locker in L.A., came back to New York with me when I moved here, and I forgot about it. I got a lot of stuff in storage.
I was going to say, do you have any of the stage props or anything like that you're sitting on or anything?
Well, should I mention that?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna
recording.
say.
Yeah.
So another thing that turned up recently is a recording that we have of 4 songs. 4 songs that we recorded at the B-52's personal recording studio in Columbus, Georgia, when we were on tour, on the marathon tour. And so we went into the studio really just to record tunes, to prepare them, do demos of them, to prepare for the next album, which was never recorded. So these 4 songs are mixed.
Mm-hmm.
They are, there's lead vocals, guitar solos. They're complete beginning to end. And the quality is demo quality.
Sounds good.
No, it actually
really good.
sounds. Felix played them for me. I was like blown away. I was like, as an
Unreleased
Angel
stuff.
fan, but unreleased 4 unreleased songs that nobody's ever heard or nothing. It was great to hear, and it's all the original band.
I smell bonus tracks on a special edition of the Punky Meadows record, baby, right?
Yeah, I mean,
We're not
they
sure
sound
what to
great.
do with it.
We're going to talk about it. Yeah.
What? By the way, is this going to be called Punky Meadows, or is this a band, or what have you
Punky
just
Meadows.
Punky Meadows. Okay, just under your
We
name.
have a title of the album, though. It's called Fallen Angel.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Well, listen, people want to talk. The lines are jammed, so I've got about 20 minutes or less before this ends, so I have to get these calls on. But should we play one? So many calls. I'd love to play another song, but then again, how often are you here? I can play songs anytime, so maybe we should just go right to the calls. You want to do that? We should do. I had White Lightning queued up for obvious reasons. I thought it'd be cool to play, but I can play it anytime. I got 20 minutes. Let's talk, right? Sure. So let's get the people involved here while this show is still live for another 20 minutes here. 866-315-2663, Eddie Trunk Live, Trunk Nation. We are having some fun here with Felix Robinson and Punky Meadows of the legendary Angel in the studio. They have a record coming out, Punky does, with these guys on it. Also, Danny Farrow's here, who's part of the band, and my buddy Keith Roth is here, who you know from, of course, this channel and the Boneyard channel, and old friend of mine who's also involved in he's the label executive. Be careful, the label is in the building.
Thank you. Yeah.
The record guys here.
No, I'm saying as far as the label thing. I mean, but I've been able to make my own records for years. And
of course, yeah.
table, but,
yeah, of course.
It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Meadows record,
For sure. People are, people who, like I said, people who are in the know are excited. Right there, couldn't be more excited. Don't judge him by the reaction. By the cell phone. All right, I'll come to you in a second. James in New Mexico. Go ahead, James.
Hey, what's up, buddy? Hey, man, I'm going to say to Felix, Danny, and definitely Punky, as well as Keith, for bringing this all together, man. Very few people understand that in the time of KISS in the late 70s, you guys made it easy for people like me growing up, the transition.
Hold on, check the volume at the end. Maybe hold on a second. I'm sorry, Danny, James. Maybe a little more volume. There, you got it?
Got it.
Okay, there we go. We just
you hear me?
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah,
Punky couldn't hear you for a second.
Gotcha.
Killer. I just want to say to all you guys that most people just assume that people have come out that are like lost and forgotten. They should never be, because you made it easy for a transitional person like me in the late 70s and 80s to actually go. It was like a go-between. It was like April Wine. It was like Nazareth that took, and I mean, it was obviously that disco was killing rock and roll. But you guys came out of an era where you guys brought it back and more tangible for people like myself with Boston, and like I said, once again, April Wine, Nazareth.
So what you're trying to say, James, if I think I understand, is that you found Angel to be a bridge to a lot of genres of music in rock.
Absolutely, just like Rose Tattoo. I mean, you ask any major player today that has survived through the 80s and the 90s and they're still kicking it, such as Slash, Guns N' Roses, people such as that are still trying to make it, or are making it and doing it and have changed transitions. It is bands based on the back of people just like you guys, Punky.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
I mean,
thanks, James. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we got a ton of calls and I got to keep moving.
Thank you so much, James.
What
That's
I think
really
is
cool.
interesting about what you said, though, is that you mentioned, disco taking things down. You guys dabbled in that a little bit at the end there. The 20th Century Foxes. You stuck your toe in that water.
It was against our will, but I mean, you had to please a record company in those days. They said we got to do it, and of course, Neil Bogart spearheaded the whole disco scene. So
Giorgio got his hooks in us.
Right.
Was that Giorgio Moroder that did
Yep.
20th Century Foxes?
It was.
Yes.
He produced that?
Yeah.
He produced.
What was it like working with him?
Interesting. Very opinionated, formalized way of recording. Everything was done according to his specifications. There was not a lot of creativity. It was 104 beats per minute.
Wow. I didn't realize he produced that.
Bass drum, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. That's what it was. That's what made disco.
So if you listen to Virginia or 20th Century Foxes, there were 2 other songs?
That was it, yeah. I think that was it.
No, there was one more, I think.
Was it? I don't remember.
Fox's soundtrack, but it was also on the live record, too, the studio version of
I
that.
think we did 3 or 4 songs and only 2 made it onto the soundtrack.
Let's go to Clifton Park, New York. This is Brent. Brent, you're on the air. Hey, Brent.
Hi, Eddie. Hi, Punky.
Hey, Brett.
Thank you very much for taking my call. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Punky was, I guess, marginalized in Frank Zappa's From New York album on Punky's Whip.
Right.
Was that a detriment to your image and career, or did it bring it a bigger attention to you and Angel?
No, I actually had to approve that. That was sent to me. They asked me if I would give them permission to do that, and they sent me the demo of the song, and I approved it. I mean, Zappa was a cool guy. If you remember, all of Zappa's stuff was all satirical. I mean, that's just what he did, and I was actually honored by that. And we went to the show. He had a show in UCLA, and at the end of the show, they wanted me to come on stage and play in costume, but of course my manager said we can't do that, and I would have done that because Zappa was a genius, and that's how he wrote songs about everybody. He had Tom Snyder and the Spiders from Mars. I mean, if you knew Zappa, that's just what he did. I mean, he made fun of his own daughter, Moon Zappa, with the Valley Girl thing. I mean, that's
true, yeah.
That's just the way that goes, and that's who he was, and he was a genius. So, I mean, I was actually flattered by that. It didn't bother me. You have to be a good sport about things. You can't take yourself too seriously, and he was a cool cat, so, I mean, it was fine with me.
So you had and you said you had to approve it in what, the sense to use your name? Or?
No, they didn't. They weren't going to put that out unless I said it was okay.
Oh, okay.
So they asked me to listen to the song, and it was originally called Punky's Lips, and it was all about this photo session I had taken with a puckered up kind of photo that I wasn't really puckered up. I was biting the side of my lip, and that's how the picture came out.
Yeah.
But they sent me the tape and said, "Listen to this. Do you mind if we put this out?" And I said, "No." And Terry Bozzio was the drummer in the band, and we were friends, and he was a cool guy and great drummer, and he actually sang on the song. And they actually did it on Saturday Night Live with Don Pardo doing the narration, which was so, because I was a big Don Pardo fan, from Saturday Night Live. So I was flattered by it. And we met Frank afterwards, and we had beer and signed autographs and all that stuff. And he said, "Thanks for being a good sport," and it's my pleasure. It was cool. So I answer your question. It wasn't a detriment as far as I'm concerned. I mean, people can take that either way they want, but I think most people get it.
That's cool.
Bill in Jersey, go ahead. You're on with Punky Meadows, Felix Robinson from Angel. What's going on?
Hey, guys, I think you answered my question. I remember seeing a movie in the 70s called Foxes, and there was a band that Jodie Foster and her friends went to go see. It was you guys, wasn't it?
That was us, right? Mm-hmm. It was Jodie Foster, Sally Kellerman, Scott Baio, Randy Quaid was in that movie.
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern was in that movie.
Film.
That was a good movie, actually.
Wow, that's great. It was a good movie. I remember it.
That was pretty much at that point. That was pretty much the last thing you did, right? Was the Foxes movie almost? That was pretty much towards the end. I mean,
we did the marathon. We did the marathon.
Yeah,
tour
we were still in costume when we did that. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. So what year did it end?
80.
80? I don't know.
Because Foxes was 80.
I wasn't keeping track of the time.
But
why doesn't my memory click in?
81? I think it was 81.
It would have been 80 because Foxes was 80.
Right, so it would have been 81, yeah.
81.
And Foxes, how did it come to be that you were in Foxes?
Well, Casablanca was in Casablanca Filmworks, and they were making movies back then. They did Donna Summer, TGI, Thank Goodness It's Friday, whatever it is. They did that. They just got into Filmworks. They did, what was it?
The Deep.
The Deep.
Midnight Express.
Midnight Express, and so they were doing that, and so they wanted to get us into the movies, That's how that happened.
It was a consortium between Neil and Peter Gruber and some other folks.
I remember that too because being a big Kiss fan, when you watched Foxes, any of the girls' bedrooms or whatever they would go into, it was always a Casablanca's artist's poster on the wall. Yeah. So it was always the Kiss solo records, or it was Parliament, or what have you. It was always the what they were listening to. You know.
Do you remember the TV show WKRP in Cincinnati?
Yeah,
well, they had our poster on that. They always would change that, and I know Casablanca must have brought some time because they had Kiss one week, and then they had us on another week as a poster on the radio station there.
Now we're getting into the Forrest Gump aspects to Angel. Like there were people on tour with us at one point that were responsible for writing the movie Spinal Tap. And if you ever saw the movie, I'm sure you have.
Of course.
There's certain sort of tribute to some of the things that we did and that happened to us.
The Pods.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the Pods. They got lost backstage in an arena. That actually happened to us.
Really?
On that tour that they were with us on.
Tell that story.
So we had a closing effect where we would climb inside of our latest album cover. It was about 12 foot by 12 foot, and it would rise up into the air and explode. So the audience thought we were inside of that album cover, but in fact we were in the large road case style hollow looking
That was a base at the bottom.
It was on wheels, which when we jumped down inside of this thing, it would be wheeled off stage. I'm not supposed to give away all this stuff.
Too late.
And went backstage, and the stagehands, and this was in Dallas at the Tarrant County Convention Center, and they grabbed it and wheeled it off into a room, and we were waiting for someone to knock and tell us it was safe to come out, but nobody knocked.
we would do our encore. When they knocked, we'd come out and run out and do an encore.
Right. So we came out of the box, and we were in a room that was just fluorescent lights and a bunch of road cases sitting around, and nobody there.
We come crawling out to like, where the hell are we?
Where are we? And if you've seen Spinal Tap, you'll know that part of the film where they're wandering around backstage saying to this old guy who's pushing a broom, which way is to the stage?
Yeah.
Well, that actually happened to us. And we laughed about it later because we were wandering around for about 5 agonizing minutes, hearing the audience screaming and for an encore. And we finally got our way back to the stage, but that exact situation actually happened to us and actually made it into the Spinal Tap film.
Well, Frank told me a story at dinner the other day about something with Barry refusing to get in the pod, that he stood next to it or
tower, we called them.
The what?
The towers.
They were called the towers.
They were called the towers.
Apologies.
No pods.
No, the pod makes me think
the
of
pod was Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
But that Barry was afraid because he thought he wouldn't get out or something, and he would stand next to it or wouldn't go in it. He said there was a couple shows where he refused to go in it.
That's funny because actually Mickey Jones, when he was in the band, he actually did get stuck in one and couldn't get out. And so that's always the narration began said he shall be known as Mickey Jones, and Mickey never popped out. We said, where the hell's Mickey at? So he wound up getting rolled off the stage. He got stuck in there or something. He couldn't get out for some reason. So it was pretty crazy.
It's like the exploding drummer.
Was there any other great mishaps during the stage production that come to mind?
Well, Punky used to wear spurs.
Oh God,
he was into a cowboy thing.
See, I was in the country back then. You know what I mean?
You wore spurs in the white?
Well, yeah. I had white cowboy boots and I had spurs on too. So.
Right.
Okay.
So white cowboy boots with real spurs, jingle jangle, all the way into that closing effect where we all had to bundle up against each other in order to fit inside this magical effect. Because we were like contortionists, which meant that Punky's damn spurs were sticking me in my chest.
Oh, jeez.
And it was funny.
Felix, how did you get into the band? Because you replaced Mickey, and how? What were you? Who were you playing with, and how did you get the call and get the job in Angel?
Well, I had moved to L.A. For the second time.
From where?
From St. Louis.
Okay.
And a few years earlier than that, I had been in L.A. for an album project as a sideman and really enjoyed it. So I had gone back to St. Louis and then, decided I would go back to L.A. and find my fortune. And, there's a lot of musicians that will move to Los Angeles as well as to New York. But at that point, L.A. was the Mecca. And, they go there to find a band that, they can get a record deal with. Well, it actually happened to me. So I was there about 6 months and playing with a group, some really great musicians. And Angel, Punky and Greg and Frank came down to see us play and approached me, and we were talking about writing tunes together. So they invited me to come out to visit with them while they were composing music for the 4th album, which turned out to be White Hot. And we started writing music. Mickey, had other issues in his life that were causing complications for him to continue to be in the band, and I'm not going to tell his story, but, it turned out great for me. So it was a wonderful thing.
All right. Interesting. And then, of course, like I said, if you guys just tuned in, what did you do after Angel? Did you, Felix? Did you?
Well,
I mean, I know we talked about White Lion, but did
yeah.
you? What other
Lots.
any bands that? What kind of bands that we would know? Maybe
a couple of stories. So I was I was still with Angel, and we were rehearsing. We were in North Hollywood. We were trying to get the band signed to another record deal. We had offers, but nothing kind of measured up to our expectations. And I got a call from Sharon Osbourne, who offered me the job to play with Ozzy. And we couldn't come to terms. The money just didn't fit my expectations.
you got an unsignable contract, just like Bill Ward.
I said, Sharon, I don't think I can do it for that much money. I'm sorry. She said, well, that's okay. I'll call Rudy.
Yeah,
And she did.
right.
I also worked with a band called 707 out of the Bay Area.
Oh yeah, I know Todd. Well, I helped Todd get into Ace Frehley's band actually.
Yeah.
And,
Todd was with Cheap Trick for a long time
yep,
as well.
absolutely. But
So,
I Could Be Good for You. That was a great song.
Right.
Were you in that band?
I was in that band for about 8 months. I did one tour, didn't do any albums.
Okay.
Did a bunch of live recordings, which are actually on Apple iTunes.
That was a good band.
It was a great band.
Yeah.
Kevin Chalfant was the singer.
Yep.
Kevin Russell, great guitar player. Jim McClarty, drummer. And we did big tours. We opened for REO Speedwagon, and Ted Nugent.
There's a funny story with me with that band. I was a fan of 707, and then I signed Ace Frehley and Megaforce Records. And there's a song on Ace's first record called Calling to You, which is actually, Todd sings, which is actually a rewrite of Megaforce.
It is.
I played the song, the 707 song Megaforce for Ace, and I told him, you should cover this song. This is a cool song. And he wanted to cover it, but then he thought it would be really corny because he was signed to a label called Megaforce, and he thought people would think he was singing about the label. So they did a rewrite. Todd rewrote it to Calling to You, but the song is the 707 song Megaforce, just with different lyrics and everything because of that reason.
It was a good band. I had a lot of fun.
Definitely was. Let's get a few more callers on here. This is Keith in North Carolina. Hey, Keith.
Hey, how you doing? Punky, I was such a fan of you back in the 80s that my wife and I moved back to my mother's home 2 years ago, and my wife is cleaning out the attic. And she finds all these drawings that I did of Punky Meadows, Frank, and Felix. And I'm thinking to myself, why in the world did I do all these drawings? Because it was almost so embarrassing. I thought, am I in love with these dudes or something? And I think what it was, because back then there was just no material, because by the time I caught the act, it was the last live album. So I started looking for you guys, and there was nothing to be found. And as a kid, I just started drawing pictures to hang on my wall, but for the longest time I was thinking, gosh, why did I draw? I felt kind of gayish that I drew you guys.
No, man. I mean, we all draw pictures. We all draw pictures of our favorite stars. I mean, we all do that. That's really cool. I think that's cool. I like to see those pictures actually.
Well, I tell you, man, you give me your address, and I'll send you some horribly crude poster images of you, Felix. I think I never even got to know Mickey. It was when Felix joined the band, and so for me, that was Angel because it was the live album that got my attention. Matter of fact, that album, back then it was 8-track, stayed in my car for a year and a half before I ever put another track in my car.
Well, you're in my hometown. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Thank you for the call, Keith. We got to keep moving. We're running out of time here. This is Dennis in Georgia. Go ahead, Dennis. Dennis?
Hello?
Hey, you're on the air, man.
Hi, Dennis.
Hey, it's not Dennis, it's Vince.
Oh,
What's
I'm
up,
sorry.
Vince?
I'm going to beat Emilio up after the show.
Yo,
he broke
Vince.
Dennis. Go ahead, man.
All right, man. Punky, I just wanted to let you know that I've been following you and Angel since Akron, Ohio in 1975 with Manfred Mann.
Cool. Good town. Akron was a great place to play, man. That's where we headline all the time. Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that. That's great, man.
Akron and Cleveland. But my question is for all the listeners, what is your vision? What do you plan to bring to the stage in terms of, stage show? You guys were so hugely powerful, and the dynamics of Angel was just incredible, and I'm curious to know what your vision is to bring to the stage. Not that you're going to be playing huge venues, but those 5,000-seat halls and the power that Angel had was just unbelievable. I've never seen a band like that ever.
We haven't really decided about. We haven't really talked about that yet. We're still working on the record right now. So as soon as we get that recorded and we start putting together a live show, we'll be discussing things like that. We really haven't gotten that far yet though. So we'll see.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that people who are expecting you to come out in all white and levitate and all that's not going to happen.
No,
that's not what.
But I may wear white.
Yeah,
I mean, I have nothing against white. I dig white.
You got a question?
Yeah.
This guy drove 2 hours, so get this question in
That's cool,
because I'm running out of time.
Of course, the music is great, and we all know that. But I was so taken in by the image and all that, the artwork, the logo, and Sinful, the last studio record, the change in titles from Bad Publicity, right? And the cover photograph. I'm just curious about that.
That happened. That was the same story about we didn't want to be pigeonholed. We wanted to get out of the white because we thought we should do. And I had seen this movie by Elvis Presley called Loving You, and I always loved that movie. And there's a scene in there where he's talking to his manager in the car, and he's complaining about the bad publicity. And she said, well, bad publicity is better than no publicity at all. And I thought that was really cool. So that's kind of how that title became. But we shot that photo at the Hyatt,
the Riot House.
The Riot House
on
Sunset Boulevard with midgets around and strippers and cops busting us in the room with drugs on the table.
We really destroyed that room.
We wanted to be a bad boy kind of image for that, rather than an all white and being angelic. We wanted to have a bad boy look. And as soon as we shot that cover, Neil Bogart from Casablanca saw that and he said, listen, I didn't sign a punk band, so go back in and get a photo. So what happened with that then, of course, we had to go back in and get the sinful photo to take its place. But those are rare, the Bad Publicity records covers, and they're really cool and they're hard to get, but it's really cool. That's a good story.
Well, listen, guys, we're running out of time. We got about 60 seconds left before I have to wrap this up. So I want to make sure everybody gets their final mentions or plugs in. Is there a central place people can track your progress? Is there a website, a Facebook, a label site? Where's the one place people should go to keep their eye on what's happening?
Yeah, we're building up a website now, and right now we have a Punky Meadows official group page, and we have a Punky Meadows official fan page. They could look on our Facebook until the site's up, and that site should be up within a month, we're hoping. We're building up on that. We're going to be posting, some updates in the studio. We'll be having, a lot of updates for the fans, and just look out for this album, man. It's going to be a great thing. It's great to hear these guys playing again. And when Punky mentioned, for bass, we were thinking about who to play on bass, and when Punky said, hey, man, how about Felix? I said, right on, dude. If he'll do it, that'd be awesome. And the bass tracks that he's laid down this weekend was just incredible. I mean, seriously.
I got to stop because they take this away from me to the second, so I have to wrap up. Good. Danny, thank you. Punky, thank you. Felix, thank you. Keith, thank you.
Thank you, Eddie.
Eric McConnell with the great question. Thank you. Ron Akiyama, photographer.
Thanks, Keith.
This was great. And when the record is... There is music. Of course, come back and we'll do it again. We'll spend more time and we'll play music for people.
Sounds great, man.
As soon as we have new stuff. Great to finally meet you guys face to face.
Thank you, Eddie. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad that you're back doing stuff.
Yeah.
And